This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today I am co-hosting the show with Pavan Bal from Fashion Is Your Business, and we are interviewing Brendan Sweeney, the General Manager of Ecommerce for the Cotton On Group.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I am super pumped that you are here to join me to learn, grow, and be inspired. Now, as we go to air, we are just 2 weeks out from Christmas. And I don't know about you, but I have not finished my Christmas shopping. I got a little bit excited about Christmas shopping about 3 or so weeks ago, and I did some online orders and I went to some stores and I bought some things. But here's a little secret, because I know that my husband does not listen to this show, that we were just out for dinner and I realized I hadn't ordered his Christmas presents. Now, if you are following me on social media, you'll know that we recently got some bees. Yes, the buzzy kind that create honey. And in fact, I didn't get the bees. My husband got the bees. I'm actually allergic to bees, but it's okay. It's all good. The bees have their own little hive up in the backyard, and he does bee looking after things, beekeeping things. So he asked for some new things for his beehive. And we were just out for dinner, and I realized in all of the tumultuousness of the last couple of weeks, getting ready for the live events, and then last week we did 3 events in 3 cities, a little bit of R&R on the weekend, and jumping straight back into work on Monday morning, I realized I hadn't ordered the presents. So while we were at dinner, I said, oh, some shoes that I wanted. I just got a notification to say that some shoes that I wanted came in. I just have to order these right now. Blatant lie. It's okay. I have ordered the beekeeping apparatus and they will arrive by courier in the next 2 days. So if you have forgotten to do your Christmas shopping, here's just a little reminder as we go live to air that you may need to do the whole express post or maybe click and collect so that you don't miss out on getting those amazing Christmas presents, very thoughtful Christmas presents for your loved ones. Now, in saying this, I also have to realize that I feel like Christmas gets further and further away each year. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Let me try and help you understand what I'm trying to say. Is that our lives are so busy that it does get to 2 weeks before Christmas, and then we realize that we need to get presents. We need to order these things. So don't be surprised if you start getting people who are doing the requests for the click and collect or for express post. And if you've stopped marketing for Christmas, I want you to get back in the trenches, send out some emails, hit up the socials, because there are a lot of people out there like me who just simply run out of time. And they are looking for people like you to curate the perfect gifts for their loved ones. And perfect gifts are just a few of the things that I saw last week. I'm so grateful. I just have to say this out loud I am so grateful, so pleased, so humbled, so amazed. Like, how many adjectives can we use to talk about the fantastic people that I met at our 3 live events here in Australia last week? So I did Sydney, Melbourne, and then Brisbane. And even though it is the busiest time of the year, really go-getting retailers just like you came out of their businesses for a half a day to look at how to put customer generation on autopilot. And in that 4-hour workshop, we worked really hard on putting the strategy in place to put those customers on autopilot so that the retailers could go back and put the implementation side in place that afternoon. And I'm so pleased to say that several people have already emailed me to say that they have put their customer generation on autopilot. And that just makes my heart sing, because there is no need for this stuff to be difficult. There is no need for you to be spending hours every week trying to dredge up new customers when there are systems and processes that you can put in place to make sure that there are new customers coming in the door or coming to your website every single day. Now, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I've got 2 more shows to go. I'm doing New York on the 12th of January and San Diego on the 24th, I think it is, of February. Let me double check the 24th of February. But we're going to be bringing this to America as well. And if you would love to get that customer generation on autopilot, I urge you to go and grab your seat super quick because our Australian show's sold out. And I wouldn't want you to miss out because I won't be back in America until October. Okay? So if that's something that you're interested in, head on over to selenaknight.com/New York or selenaknight.com/San Diego. You can reserve your spot for just $1. Now, speaking of marketing and getting new customers on autopilot, today's guest is big business. And I am really chuffed to say that I was in the Cotton On store back when it was just one store in Perth, Australia. None of this multinational global enterprise that it is now. I still remember going in there and saying to my boyfriend at the time, oh my goodness, this store is the best. So fast forward 20 or so years, and here I am able to interview the general manager of e-commerce for the Cotton On Group. And the Cotton On Group is actually 7 different brands. We talk a lot about marketing to millennials and pivoting to stay front of mind in an ever-changing industry. You guys are going to love this one because we are thinking big. We are talking about how big business uses their influence and their marketing budget to get more sales. And what I love about interviewing big business is that you can take what they're doing and you can model those same things into your business. There is no excuse these days to say just because they've got a bigger marketing budget or they have more people or more staff, that's not an excuse anymore, guys. There are apps, there are systems, there are processes where you can do this for your store as well. So let's jump into today's episode with Brendan Sweeney, General Manager of E-commerce for the Cotton On Group, where I co-host this show live at Online Retailer in Sydney with the gorgeous Pavan Bal from Fashion Is Your Business. And if you are in the fashion industry and you haven't checked out that podcast, you most certainly must do that. Fashion Is Your Business. Head on over to iTunes, seek it out, and make sure that you press subscribe.
This is Mouth Media Network, covering the business of lifestyle.
This episode was recorded in Australia and is presented by Fluent Commerce, the leader in smart cloud native omnichannel order management, at fluentcommerce.com.
Welcome, everybody, to another recording of Fashion Is Your Business. We are here on location at the Online Retailer Program, and we are in partnership with the Nora Network as well as Fluent Commerce. It has been a great program, and just some fascinating characters. And from what I understand, this staged content was tremendous, and we've been having a great time here at the Nora podcast booth. And I'm here with Selena Knight, who is a retail strategist here based in Sydney, and she has a fantastic podcast of her own, which is called Bringing Business to Retail. What's going on?
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me to come on. This is a really fantastic opportunity to get in and say hello and to interview Brendan, who you're about to introduce. And I think this whole conference has been fantastic, not only for the networking perspective. I think it's really important as online people who quite often we're sitting in an office, sitting behind a desk, sitting in a warehouse, to actually get out and connect with other retailers. But also the knowledge that's been disseminated while we're here has just been fantastic and completely implementable.
Absolutely. And of course, to reintroduce our guest is Mr. Brendan Sweeney. He is the general manager of e-commerce across the Cotton On Group brands.
You're listening to Fashion Is Your Business, powered by Sennheiser and recorded on location. Here are your hosts.
Welcome to the show, Brendan. What's going on?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How you? I kicked the whole jet lag thing. That really that bit me in the butt the first day, and then I was kind of smooth sailing from there. So today I'm feeling great.
That's great.
Yeah. How you doing?
You enjoying Sydney?
Tremendously. So I mean, every chance I've gotten, I've just been walking around with my headphones on, and sometimes taking them off just to listen to the sights and sounds. And it's been a great experience. I've been staying out in Bondi. It's beautiful there.
Great.
Going for my morning strolls for the sunrise.
Beautiful.
What is this?
Well, you're quite lucky where the online retailer conference is. We're right on Darling Harbour, so you literally just have to walk out the door to see the beautiful harbour.
Yesterday, I was during the golden hour. I was walking out, and you saw all the buildings behind the harbor just lit up. Oh my goodness, tremendous. Anyway, let's move on to Brendan and forget about my reflections on Sydney. I'll give everyone a good hand on that at another time. But Brendan, why don't we start here? Why don't you give us a kind of a overview of who you are and what the Cotton On Group is all about?
Yeah, sure. The Cotton On Group is it's an Australian business that's gone global. We're quite unusual in that perspective because Australia tends to be a little bit insular from a retail perspective, given the distances. But we've actually got 7 retail brands now, spanning everything really from children's wear to teens and adult businesses, mainly in fast fashion, and we also have an apparel and gifting brand. So we're now up to 1,400 stores in 19 countries around the world.
1,400 stores, you said.
Yep.
It's a far cry from the little Cotton On that I went to many, 20-odd years ago in Western Australia.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. Most of it's happened in the last 10 years. If you were sitting here 10 years ago, we had 200 stores, and we just opened the first overseas store in New Zealand. So the last 10 years has kind of been explosive growth for the business. Added 1,200 stores and 18 countries to the portfolio.
Okay. Can you talk through some of the brands real quick without going into too much depth? You mentioned it was for it's a brands group, but which ones are we talking about primarily?
Yeah, so we've got our kind of core Cotton On brand, which is adults casual clothing. We've got a Cotton On Kids business. We've got Cotton On Body, which is apparel and activewear. And we also have 2 teenage brands called Factory and Supre. And we have a stationery and gifting brand called Typo.
Tremendous. And how long have you been working in the capacity of general manager of e-commerce there?
So I joined just over 3 years ago.
Excellent.
But I've been in the e-commerce space for about 15 years.
And how long has the company been prioritizing e-commerce prior to you?
Well, interestingly, we only built our first website 5 years ago.
What?
Isn't that amazing?
Are you kidding me?
And which brand was that for?
It was for Cotton On, but it was literally 3 people in the corner, homemade website.
Yeah.
We've been so busy opening stores around the world, and I think historically Australia has been a little bit behind the Northern Hemisphere in e-commerce. Sure. But I think we've been taking it seriously pretty much from the get-go, and in particular over the last 3 or 4 years.
For context, what type of revenues are we talking about annually?
So the overall group turns over just over $2 billion.
$2 billion.
Yeah.
That's with a B, right?
Yeah.
I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah.
I'm not sure sometimes with the accent difference.
And how much of that comes from e-commerce revenue?
Close to 10% now. Yeah. And we're growing very, very fast. It's by far our fastest growing channel.
Fantastic. Who's your target audience? Like, who is your customer?
Essentially, millennials. Yeah. We actually have a kind of reasonable span across the brands now. We've learned a lot. We recently launched a loyalty program that spans across all 7 brands. But we kind of start off at about 13. But our core customer is around 25 to 29. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then our kids business as a slightly older customer as they kind of get to that life stage.
How have you found the transition? You've come into e-commerce at a point where it's accelerating exponentially. So having been in commerce myself for over 10 years, one of those version 1.0 websites, what we've seen in the last 3 years is just dramatic. So how do you keep up with the pace of what's happening?
Yeah, so first of all, I consider us to be very lucky because we've got great brands and we have a really good global physical network. So if we think about as I was talking about this morning, 99.9% of the e-commerce market is outside of Australia. We're fortunate that we've already got store footprints, distribution networks, and awareness of the brand in lots of other countries around the world. So to us really has been about building the capability to be able to do the things well that matter in e-commerce, and building the right partner ecosystem, and then making sure we're just taking a global view to how we actually scale our model effectively. So we've really been busy playing catch up, but we've been doing that in a way where we try to bring together all the channels and integrate things like click and collect, store returns, order in store, ship to your door, loyalty, afterpay, all those things. So really a lot of my time over the last 3 years has been about being able to build a great team. We're also super fortunate that we're a privately owned business, so it's actually a lot easier to move quickly in a very pragmatic, very entrepreneurial, privately owned business than it is in some of the big corporations.
And so do you have the same team that runs e-commerce across all of the different brands, or does each brand have its own e-commerce team?
It's a little bit of a blended team, actually. So the stuff that makes sense to do centrally, we do centrally. So things like customer experience and loyalty and operations and customer service, we run that centrally. And then the actual, the marketing side in terms of the provision of the creative assets and things happens in brand, because they're clearly closest to what their brand stands for and closest to their individual customers. So it's very much a collaboration across the whole business, and I mean e-commerce kind of touches everything, it's about how effectively we can collaborate both with markets and with brands and the central function.
So when you're thinking about e-commerce holistically, are you looking to build out solutions proprietary internally, or are you looking more for that kind of agile style of just looking for solutions that exist and then deploying them inside and making sure that they're implemented properly?
It's a bit of a mix. I mean, we've moved the whole kind of technology side of our business to a much more agile model, but that's through a mixture of our own capability in-house plus some really great external partners. And if there are really good software solutions out there, we would adopt those rather than build all the stuff in-house. I think it's an area where it doesn't make a huge amount of sense to build a lot of stuff in-house anymore. There's best-in-breed solutions, and there's some great cloud-based solutions and infrastructure. So generally we will go after those, but we'll maintain the core capability on the customer experience, the roadmap, the prioritization of the integrations that we're doing. But the majority of stuff we'll go and look for who are the right system solution partners to work with.
And how much of your work is aligned with the in-store experience? So of course, we know it's incredibly important to mimic each other or work together, right? So we went from Omni to Unified and all that good stuff. So how collaborative is that environment in Cotton On?
Yeah, I mean, we actually try not to think about the channels and just think about the customer. Because what's really, really clear is the customer doesn't think about the channels. They just think about, Cotton On as a brand, and whether it's, our marketing campaigns or whether it's the shopping channels, they're really indifferent. I think in an ideal world, people sort of think somewhat naively it would be perfect if everything was the same. But there are times where it makes perfect business sense to, for example, run different offers in different channels, dependent on your stock positions or your economics of serving the customer in those different channels. But we've got a structure now where we try to integrate two ways. One is integrate with the brands, because essentially we're providing a platform for the brands, and we're actually by a mile the largest marketing platform. We're a business that's historically not spent much money on traditional marketing. Our view is if we have a great proposition and we pay lots of rent for stores in good locations, then that's our marketing. If you take visits to our websites, if you take our emails, it's by a mile our largest marketing platform now, and it's got a really important impact on the performance of our retail stores.
Well, I mean, when you're thinking about things like click and collect and things like that, so of course our partner over here with Fluent Commerce provides those types of solutions. Are those things that you're also looking to deploy on the e-commerce side that's aiding the initiatives on the retail side?
Yeah, I mean, we deployed store to door and click and collect over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Both really, really important in terms of connecting the customer with our stock. And click and collect obviously is a really important role in terms of driving footfall to our stores. And we find typically 1 in 3 customers will purchase something else when they get to store.
Does IoT and like smart mirrors and walls and all that stuff tie into your world, or is that technically the e-commerce side?
Yeah, I mean, we're involved across the business in terms of thinking about store of the future. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're kind of slightly cynical about some of the technologies out there for the sake of technology. I think there's lots of examples around the world of what I would call stores for the analysts that never get scaled. So
They get press, though. They get good press.
They
Great
get
PR.
press, yeah. But for us, the filter is, does it make sense from a customer point of view, and is it commercially sensible? And we think actually, there's some more fundamental basics in most people's retail experience. I talked this morning about anything up to one in five customers comes into a store looking for a certain size or color that we don't necessarily have. We'd much rather put a huge effort into fixing that because they're already in the store, they've already got their wallet out, and if we can do a better job anticipating their demand and connecting them with the right stock, I think. When I look at all the feedback we get from our customers, none of it's about wanting holographic models in store or wanting fancy mirrors. 70% of our feedback comments are about the store experience they've had from our team in store. And what
Just
we're
having the product that they need when they need it, and how to service them.
And having a great team who welcome them to the store, service them, have got good knowledge about the products, and they feel great about the fact they've given us their business.
Yeah, we were talking to Q Clothing earlier today, and they do a tremendous job of using their retail locations as like distribution centers, essentially. So really interesting. What we'll do is we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we're going to really dive in specifically around how you're attaching to your target market, which today is millennials and tomorrow seems to be Gen Z. So definitely both the unicorns that everyone seems to be trying to run after, and it seems like you lassoed them in. So more when we come back here at Fashion is Your Business at the online retailer program in Sydney.
Brendan, you said that you relied traditionally on bricks and mortar stores to bring in the customer footfall, and you're only 3 years into e-commerce. So e-commerce for you is still relatively small, but you have 7 brands that mostly target the same demographic. So how are you integrating cross-brand promotion to your existing customer database?
That's a great question. And I think historically our 7 brands have been very siloed. They've just thought about their customer, and frankly they've thought that the customer only shops with them. So one of the great things about e-commerce is we've been able to actually bring some data, and introducing loyalty has also brought some data to that. So I think that the first thing is actually, rather than worrying too much about cross-promotion, the first thing we did was actually put all 7 brands on the same website, because once you make them all conveniently accessible to the customer, then you start to understand how the customer will relate to the different brands. And as soon as we did that, we saw higher footfall, higher conversion, larger baskets, and over half the orders were cross-brand. We've also done that in a lot of our store formats now. So generally, we're remixing our space allocation to fewer, larger multi-brand stores where we put the most associated brands together and make it easy for the customer to shop that. And our loyalty program has given us a really clear picture. Multi-brand customers are almost 3 times as valuable as single-brand customers for us. And we can see very clearly opportunities to link people across different brands and into different categories. For example, Supre is a kind of teenage girls brand, and we can see as people sort of come out of that from an age perspective that we can actually link them into our Cotton On Adults brand. We can see people buying maternity who are fairly predictably going to become purchasers of baby products. So actually our loyalty data enables us to kind of look at those segments and those cross-brand journeys. But I think people can make this actually too complicated. I think I used to look after the Flybuys loyalty scheme, which is the largest grocery loyalty scheme in Australia. And there we segmented to one individual customer. So you would have your own profile and your own specific targeting. Actually, most of our brands are targeting millennial females. So, if you're buying a dress from us, then it's probably a reasonable assumption that you're also in the market for a handbag and a pair of shoes and some underwear. I think, sometimes people can try and get far too sophisticated and get lost in a kind of world of data and complexity and sort of miss the bigger, opportunity to just make sure we're speaking to the widest possible audience, but with that comes the responsibility of being relevant to that audience.
Yeah. The millennial demographic, it spans from what you just mentioned is, women that are 25 years old all the way through, having a couple of children and just being at completely varied life stages, right, within that bracket. And, attaching to these kind of life cycle moments is super important. And I can see how you could triangulate that through the different brands. But ultimately, I mean, like, how do you then use e-commerce to provide them, I guess, suggestions that are relevant to them, whether it's outfitting, whether it's their homepage that's unique to them? Like, what type of customization efforts are you doing on the e-commerce side to make sure that, whether I come in, or, well, it wouldn't be me, but what if I do come in, like, just individualized experiences through the online portal?
Yeah. So I think we're actually going to start further back in the funnel because you're right. I mean, with the span that we've got, actually, for example, the media mix that the different segments use is quite different. So, for example, we'd invest quite heavily in Facebook for our kids' business because mums of Australia spend most of their time on Facebook. Yeah. For businesses like Supre and Typo, which are a much younger demographic, it's all happening on Instagram. So, it kind of starts a bit further back in the funnel.
When do you see Facebook aging out, though?
We see it as still important. I think it's good for them. They own both Facebook and Instagram, and I think the models will end up being relatively similar. But certainly, what we see with the younger, kind of 13 to 20-year-olds is, because when we ask them the question about what most influences their fashion choices, it's that the number 1 and 2 are Instagram and their friends. And Facebook doesn't even feature with that segment.
Not even influencers. Yeah.
So are you using any styling recommendation engines? Are you looking at...
Yeah, so we use the Demandware Commerce Cloud, and as part of their Einstein Artificial Intelligence, that's got some complete the outfit type recommendations. We're actually at quite an early stage in the journey in that. We're pretty excited about the potential. And we're thinking about that in terms of... Not just when you click on a category, what does it recommend, but actually more throughout the entire shopping journey. So for example, if I'm buying some underwear, does it recommend matching tops? If I'm buying a T-shirt that happens to be on a multi-buy offer that offers value to the customer, does it recommend similar types of T-shirts but points out that you can save money by buying that? And indeed, our foundation charity products are quite important to our business as well. So what's the right point in the customer journey to suggest that customers might like to support our charity? So we've started on that process. I think we're still pretty much in the foothills. I think we've got lots of opportunity around how we better personalize that. Loyalty is part of the kind of unlock for us. We launched a loyalty scheme 6 months ago. Clearly, that gives you a whole load more data where you're understanding behavior across all channels. And then, thinking about how we use that data to be able to be more personalized in the experience.
Are subscription boxes in the future for you guys? Because it seems you're perfectly fit for something like that.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, as I said right at the very beginning, what excites me is the unlimited growth opportunities in the space. Yeah. So that's one of them. It's kind of a question about where does that fit in? Is it ahead of opening the Middle East or Brazil as a new marketplace? So but we definitely think particularly across our menswear and potentially our children's business that there could be real potential for that.
You mentioned personalization, but in reality, your personalization is still in its infancy. That's very basic personalization. If you had the ultimate in personalization for that millennial customer, what would your e-commerce experience look like?
Well, actually, where we've put most of our effort in personalization is actually at a product level. And that's been a huge success for us. So, in the run-up to Christmas last year, we actually set up our own personalization operations around the world, where, and indeed, as you've seen in the booth here, we'll personalize your diaries and journals for you. We personalize kids' sleeping bags and pajamas. So anything from printing, embossing, embroidering. That we've seen a real appetite for actually that personalized products to allow people to enhance their gifting experience or to just elevate their expression of themselves. So we've actually put a lot of our personalization effort into the product side.
But in terms of, as an e-commerce customer, who your loyalty program is obviously the data that's driving all of it. I bought this, so I might want to buy that. What would that experience look like for you? What would the ultimate Cotton On millennial customer or the ultimate Cotton On customer see when they came to your site if it was at its peak?
Well, I think fundamentally you're trying to triangulate inspiration and convenience. Yeah. So how can you inspire somebody to buy outfits that are going to be a good fit to them, knowing what sort of styles they like to buy?
Yes.
So I think there's the inspiration side, which is a real kind of holy grail to try and get that personalization right. And then I think there's the whole kind of convenience side as well of how do you make it really easy for customers just to make those decisions and to actually simplify their lives.
And I think if you can get style down pat, your average order value is going to skyrocket, because having something that I actually want versus something you think I might want is the difference between buying and not buying.
Yeah, and we're actually we're planning in a couple of months to launch visual search, but we're actually quite excited about the possibilities of things like visual search, and then people taking social media shots and uploading those, and then using some of the artificial intelligence to actually assemble those sorts of outfits for customers. I think something like that will be a real game changer.
We work closely with a company called Stylytics out in New York, and they are looking, in fact, to come into Australia and start talking to retailers over here. But they do style recommendations, outfitting, including box suggestions and things like that for large companies over there. So might be an interesting tool and an introduction to put your way.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I want to shift focus. You spoke here at Online Retailer. Can you tell us a little bit about the presentation that you had earlier?
I was really talking about two areas. I was talking about making a difference in the world, and core to our business is making a positive difference in the world we operate in. And I talked a little bit about our charity, the Cotton On Foundation, and the work we're doing to try and solve quality education for youth in underdeveloped markets. And we're on a mission to create 20,000 education places by 2020. So that's something we're very passionate and very proud about. We set it up 10 years ago, and we've already got over 10,000 children a year graduating from schools that we've built.
There was a slide or two that I saw as a snapshot. Of course, I was busy in the podcast booth, and I didn't get to see it firsthand, but a couple people came up to me and showed me slides showing some staggering numbers. I think 3 million plus in the last several hours that were donated to charitable different organizations while you were sitting there. Can you unfold that? Can you give me some clarity to that, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so we've got our charity that raises about $15 million a year by selling products like water through our stores, and all the money goes to charity. But we've always been kind of debating, what else could we do, and are there different models? So we did a test this year with a lady called Carrie Bickmore, who's quite a famous TV presenter in Australia. She unfortunately lost her husband to brain cancer a couple of years ago, and she set up a charity. So we got together with Carrie, and she's got a concept of beanies for brain cancer, which I think the US translation is hats.
No, beanies
you got
works.
beanies too? Okay.
Beanies work.
So we worked with her. Our designers designed the products. We sourced them through our supply chain. And Carrie launched it on The Project, which is one of her TV shows. And it was just incredible. We sold 250,000 units in just over a week. But yeah, I mean, the slide that I showed was actually the Google Analytics slide that showed almost 80% of the sales were from mobile. And I think we peaked at $3.5 million in an hour, which was kind of when the ad break broke. So it was an incredible ad for, the convenience of mobile. People didn't have to get off their couches, and we had, I think, 66,000 orders in an hour.
That's unbelievable. Now, you're also allowing people to, at the store level, to actually donate also, right? So attached to their current purchase, they could say, okay, $1 here, $1 there, might go to different select charities. Is that correct? Or
no, we've actually got a really simple model, which is, we've taken a bunch of everyday products that are good value. So water, tissues, mints, reusable bags. And those are what we call our foundation products, where if the customer buys those, then 100% goes to charity. We actually sell one of those every 3 seconds around the world. Customers have been super supportive.
It's incredible, right? What impact a brand can really make.
It is, and I have a question, which is, millennials have been stigmatized as being selfish and only caring about themselves. So on paper, it seems like they wouldn't want to support charity, but yet every 3 seconds you are able to get them to dig into their wallets.
Yeah, I mean, I think that depiction is really misunderstood.
Off, yeah,
I
sure.
mean, the reality is everything that we see is, that they care about who they purchase from, they care about where their products have come from, they care about what the business stands for. I didn't talk about it today because of the limited time that we've got, but we're doing a huge amount of work way upstream on sustainable cotton, and trying to improve the livelihoods of the cotton farmers in Kenya. This stuff really matters. We see exactly the opposite. And we're not doing it because we're trying to appeal to the target audience. We're doing it because it's fundamentally what we care about as a business. But a benefit of it is it does resonate really strongly with our customers.
You're getting the customer buy-in.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
As you move to more sustainable models, and whether it's in the fabrics or otherwise, I mean, there's bound to be a lot of backlash, and I'm wondering how you guys mold or just internalize that. So, for instance, we're speaking with Nina Shariati. She's the head of sustainability at H&M, and of course, they have a massive footprint. And no matter how much they are doing to make impact or be mindful, there always seems to be that other side that says, well, no, since you are fast fashion, it doesn't matter. There is always going to be that contrary to what you're doing. How has the company kind of reacted to that sort of sentiment?
I think the reality is, as an industry, there is a huge journey for us to go on. Fast fashion is still relatively young as an industry, and it's quite a complex set of supply chains that keeps moving around the world. We spend a huge amount of time, trying to make sure that everything from living wages and good nutrition to sustainability of the upstream supply chain. But it's a journey that will never ever be done. You'll actually rarely see us come out and try and claim any victory because we feel that we're making good progress. Any kind of external benchmarks give us good gradings, but we think as an industry there's still so much more for us to do.
Given your target market is quite price sensitive, how do you implement those sustainable aspects and still keep the price at a level that they're going to be comfortable paying?
I think that the core of our business actually has been born out of effective sourcing and supply chain management, and the model doesn't work if you're not offering good value to customers. But there's lots of opportunity, all the way through the profit and loss account. If you can get more volume through a more efficient store format, you can afford to reinvest that back in pricing for customers.
That's great.
And now to end off this segment before we go into break, so as the millennial bracket ages out, and then now the Gen Z kind of bracket comes into your target demographic, how are you thinking about different ways to connect with them?
I think actually at the most fundamental level, the profile of our workforce mirrors the profile of our core customer, which kind of makes things a lot more intuitive. So we're not the sort of business that tends to do lots of futurology, trends, and forecasting. Our average team members in our business are about 27 years old, predominantly female.
So I understand it.
We just kind of intuitively understand those customers. It's not to say we don't do research, we do, but it's a quick turnaround research with our own customers, and then it's about being able to just test stuff and respond quickly. We probably turn over about 40% of our product range every month. So in that we're just constantly testing and responding. Stuff that doesn't work, and we'll always have stuff that doesn't work. We kill it and get out. Stuff that does work, then we chase it and try and go big on it. And then because we're in both northern and southern hemispheres, we can sort of follow trends around the world quite a lot as well.
Excellent. Well, we're going to go into a quick break. When we're back, a lightning round of off-the-grid questions where we're going to learn more about our guest, Brendan Sweeney, a little bit more personally rather than professionally here on Fashion is Your Business at the online retailer program with Nora and Fluent Commerce.
Welcome to the All Possibilities podcast. I'm your host, Julie Chan, intuitive life purpose coach and founder of Being My Purpose. I had a successful career, an Ivy League education, and led a very rational life. Several years ago, I had a spiritual awakening, developed psychic gifts, and decided to dedicate my life to pursue my purpose and empower others. I'm hungry to learn even more about the incredible potential of the human mind and spirit. On this podcast, I talk to entrepreneurs, executives, scientists, and leaders to hear their stories of transformation, the science behind them, and what it means for you to unlock your potential in your life and career. Together, let's embark on a discovery of all possibilities. Episodes are available on iTunes, Google Play, and our website, allpossibilitiesshow.com.
And now it's time for Questions Off the Grid with Fashion is Your Business.
All right, and we are back with Off the Grid questions. So I'm going to go ahead and spin our little bit of wheel of grid destiny to see who will ask the first question of the evening. And it is spinning, and it lands on you, Serena.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I love a good juicy question. So my question to you, Brendan, is what do you fear the most in life?
That's an interesting question. Maybe death, because I quite enjoy my life and I wouldn't want it to be cut abruptly short.
Do you feel like you are going to leave a legacy with the life that you're living now?
I hope so in some small way. I enjoy building businesses and I enjoy developing teams. So I hope so in some small way that I'll leave the world a slightly better place.
And some people will be much better dressed.
Okay, another last spin and a meaningless spin of this wheel, and of course it falls on me. Brendan, I'm wondering, since I've kind of identified my perfect way of walking around and exploring this city already. I'm wondering what your perfect Sunday looks and feels like.
I think probably I live in Melbourne, not in Sydney, but if you get down there, the coffee is even better in Melbourne.
I'll be there on Saturday.
Yeah, great. So I think it starts with brunch in a nice cafe with the family, and then if the weather is good, I like to either get out of my bike or get out on the kayak on the bay.
Nice. Do you have any children?
Yes, I've got two. I've got a boy and a girl.
Very nice. How much inspiration are you taking from them with the work that you're doing?
I was going to ask the same question.
They're a little bit on the young side, actually. So, Liam is only 3.5, and Ella will be 1 next week. So, I think probably more going forward.
What type of folks are you looking to connect with these days?
Oh, everybody and anybody. I mean, I find events like these really useful. I also like to connect internationally on the e-com world, and actually, I find there's so much growth potential in the industry. It's a remarkably collaborative space, and there's so much we can learn from each other.
Great. And what is the best way to connect with you, or the business, however you want to put it out there?
Oh, I think. Obviously lots of connections through things like LinkedIn, but to me, it's actually the personal connections are the most valuable ones.
So that's Brendan Sweeney on LinkedIn?
Yep.
That's the best way to connect?
Yep.
Excellent. Brendan, such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on board and sharing.
Thank you.
And of course, for my co-host, what a pleasure having a little joint recording today.
And I'm smiling away. I've had so much fun, so thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And why don't you give a quick plug into your podcast and what's going on over there?
If you're a retailer and you're looking for implementable strategies to help you grow, head on over to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, which you can find on iTunes or any of the usual places. And you can grab those implementable strategies that you can take and use in your business right away to see growth and sales profits.
Excellent. Ooh.
Wasn't expecting that question.
Such a pleasure having you on board with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for myself, Pavan, that is it for this episode, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you.
This has been Fashion is Your Business. To suggest guests or content for the show, or to become a sponsor, email us at podcast@mouthmedianetwork.com. Keep up with the show on social media at Fashion Biz Show. That's Fashion BIZ Show. Episodes available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, along with our website, fashionisyourbusiness.com. Produced by Mouth Media Network. Copyright 2018, all rights reserved. No portion of the episode may be distributed or published without the express written permission of the producers. This is your announcer, Peter Coleman. Thanks for listening.
This is Mouth Media Network, covering the business of lifestyle.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.